defense.
What up, and welcome back to Split the Defense Leafs post game. I'm Webby here with CP. Breakdown, tough loss for the Toronto Maple Leafs after the trade deadline. I'm sure we're going to have lots to talk about of the new guys. What a shootout tonight. Lots of firepower on display. We've got everything Game 63 for the Toronto Maple Leafs ahead for you on Split the Defense Leafs post game, presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors, serving the Kingston and surrounding area since 2004. So let's break it down. The Leafs lose 7-4, and I don't really want to give a star out to our side, but what's your overall take of the game, CP?
Overall take is it's kind of a tough one after trade deadline. You get some guys in, and a little underwhelming, I think, of a deadline as far as what everyone else did compared to the Leafs. But it looked like for a second there we were gonna squeak out a win that we didn't deserve, but did not happen that way. No.
So we had the lines got shifted up. We got new guys. Scott Laughton drawing in on the third line, pushes Nick Robertson down to the fourth line. Calle Yarncroke scratched. And it was certainly different looks tonight. I think a lot of it had to do with, not everybody's comfortable. I think that was very clear on both sides. Lots of skill, especially looking at the Avs now. Lots of skill on that team. And, on our side too, I just don't think that our bottom six was clicking and looking like the way it's been the last couple of weeks. But I think there's a reason for that, right? Everybody's been pushed into a different spot than they were before. I really do think a big part of it, though, is that fears me is Anthony Stolarz is let in a couple of goals tonight that I know he'd love to have back. And him having a couple off nights right now is not good for Toronto Maple Leafs fans with the way Joseph Woll is looking.
Joseph Woll had a few off nights as well, right? So it's just in general, you're not getting a stellar performance from either side as far
That's
as
what I mean. It's worrying.
Yeah. So it is tough. That's kind of what this team's been relying on all season long. It's just amazing goaltending, and it hasn't been good for the Leaf psyche for sure. I think as far as the bottom six, that's a really positive way of looking at it. It's tough luck when you're the two guys you acquire out on the ice for both of them for one of the goals in the first 2 minutes, and then
directly contributing.
Yeah, and I think Laughton was out there for both of them. So yeah, kind of a very tough to look. But I thought in general, the two players looked like what they could be. I saw flashes from Carlo that looked good, and I saw flashes from Laughton that looked good. But definitely that third line might look worse tonight than it's ever looked. Pretty brutal, and they all basically got benched in the later part of the game. So you can't look too much into it, but it's just one of those things where you want to just get off to a good start with the guys, right? And so hopefully they can maybe find something a little different, because I don't know, him and Domi, I think they can develop it a scrappiness type of line. They just have to be they just have to be responsible, right? And
yeah, I don't really know how Scott Laughton fits in with those two exact guys.
Yeah,
I will say that my impression of Scott Laughton is he looks miserable, and I don't think he's miserable to be here. But he's just got a miserable look on his face. If I was to be on the ice at the same time as him, it's what the fuck is that guy's problem? He is got resting bitch face. That guy is a scary looking motherfucker. I just don't know how he fits in with the Max Domi and Bobby McMann.
I think him and Max Domi are fairly similar players. I'd say that Scott Laughton brings less playmaking ability, and he's supposed to be a little bit better on the right side of the puck. and a little bit better of a centerman. But I think like I'm not sure how it's going to work together, but I do think that there is a similarity in those two players. I'm just not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So yeah, it's you want to see like a third line that has an identity. And so yeah, what is the players on there that make that happen? Yeah. I mean, as far as
Right.
acquiring Lawton, he was never on like anyone's like top of their list. Like even when you look at like across the ice at Brock Nelson, and like that's the guy that I wanted, and he hits a post on his first shot coming out. Like it's like a positive vibe right out of the gate. So
Yeah.
like first impressions aren't everything, but they mean something, and first impression was not great.
That first shift for them, the first couple of shifts for them were absolutely insane. The Avs score 56 seconds in. Pretty sure Mo tipped that one in, not going to
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah, I do too.
Nichushkin gets credit for that goal there, but I'm pretty sure that last touched Morgan Riley's stick. So he had a goal for the other guys, and then I'm pretty sure he assisted on the second goal for them. So that wasn't great for the Morgan Riley, Brandon Carlo pairing to start. Scott Lawton was on the ice, I believe, for the second goal as well. But yeah, Nelson hits a post the first shift. Like, if you just want to take a second and talk about the ads that they made, holy shit, does that team look offensively strong now? It's like the Leafs, you haven't seen our Leafs play at that level for a game in a long time, and they could see on the other end it's either do or die. Like, you do this or you're getting fucking caved tonight, and it doesn't matter who you've got in net. Even with Anthony Stolarz letting one in 1 minute into the game, I don't think it would have normally shook this team, but I think they knew that it doesn't matter how many goals you score. Like I said, the Leafs were up by 2. I said they need to go up by 6 before I get comfortable, because this Avs team will come back in the past, and all they did was add firepower. So, like, that team is absolutely pressed for a Stanley Cup run. Now, they're probably going to have to play the Dallas Stars in the first round, it's looking right now, who just acquired Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, that's gonna be hilarious.
So we'll have to see how that comes out between those two teams. That would be an insane first round matchup, like
I
almost
think,
criminal.
yeah, I think like the thing is, I thought the first line played pretty well because you're matched up against like such a tough opponent in McKinnon, and so like that's part of where you need the rest of the team for the Leafs to really show up, because it's quite the burden put on Matthews to make sure that like McKinnon didn't do much until the end of the game, right? Like, didn't he get his first point? Or no, yeah, first point on the goal that he scored. And so like I thought that him and Marner like were doing their job. It's just like, yeah, that's when you need the depth on a team. Like if you're not gonna expect anything from Matthews and not win those minutes, then yeah, it's just when you look at the firepower that Colorado's bringing, like in the second and third line, and even the fourth line, yeah, that's going to be tough. I'm glad that they're on the other side, because if we do meet Colorado in the playoffs, then it's been a great run. Like
Yeah,
so,
then it's
I'd
fine.
be
Yeah,
I'd be
it's been a
totally
good
stoked
run.
to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how about Mitch Marner, though? Talk about that top line. Mitch Marner scores 2 goals tonight. He answers back on the first goal 3 minutes into the game. He now has 7 20-goal seasons in his career and 5 in a row. The guy is definitely playing some of his best hockey right now. He is clearly the best player on the ice, and I'd like to know your true feelings on where you think he's going to end up next year and how you're going to feel about that.
I mean, yeah, the only thing that Mitch Marner did wrong tonight was take that penalty. I mean, otherwise he played amazing. 2 goals, like beautiful snipes. One of the one-timer too, and I just yeah. And
Totally
coming
knows
off
what
of
I said.
Yeah, totally. And
Love it.
and coming off of a report where they like there was some trade talks between him and Brad Treliving. So like all of that controversy coming into the game. And then it kind of all gets kind of blown away when Elliot Friedman has his, 5 minutes on intermission, kind of explains it. And I feel much better about it. I feel like Marner does want to be here. Like
Yeah.
if you think about Brad Living gets like he doesn't have Marner signed, and it's about like protecting the team. There's an opportunity to replace him if he's not going to wants to be here. And so it's not necessarily he came to him and said like, we're not going to sign you. We want Rantanen, like get out of here. It's just like he came to him and said like, where are you at? Like, do you want to be here? And if you do, like, then fine. But like, if you don't, then like, this is our opportunity to, you know, do something good for our team. So like, I have to show you it. So I thought the explanation was pretty good from Friedman, and I do now hope and pray that he signs here. But it's been a kind of a crazy 24 hours as a Mitch Marner, new fanboy, basically. The whole team or the whole fan base is falling in love with him just because of how he's played this year. Like all the press
Mostly Four
on
Nations,
him.
let's be honest.
And yes, and then on the Four Nations, he just kind of seals the deal. And so
Yeah.
I think he has, a lot of good credit here. And if it was like tonight felt like for the first period, like, is this the first game where we're actually counting down Mitch Marner not being on a Leaf? Like, are we counting down the games now of his last Leaf games? But I don't know, I feel much better after the game. Yeah, it's crazy how things can change.
Definitely. And how about our boy, John Tavares? He got a goal off an offensive zone faceoff. Then he gets his second on the power play to make it 4-2 tonight. Now, that's definitely a guy the Leafs got to resign, right? Like, he's going to be a Leaf again next year.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he's looking for $7 million a year, like on a
Done.
three-ish year term. So I think that you would rather him at 5 million. I think is
Well, of
where I
course.
would
You'd rather him
like
at
to see it.
one. But
But yeah, I think that's kind of where you might see him come in. It's not going to be 7. And like if that's what his offer is, he's going to sign for 5 or 6. He's not going anywhere else. He has kids. He's like moved his entire life is here. It's a totally different like game than like the Marner, where Marner is having a kid, but he could choose to raise that kid wherever he wants right now because it's it's not born yet, versus like someone who's solidified the end of his career. So I think if you really could, you could probably get Tavares for like 3 million. Just be like, like if you really played hardball with them. But I think like it's
I
nice
don't
the
know.
cap's going up a little bit because then you can kind of
Ottawa
give
and New
them.
York aren't that far away.
Yeah, maybe, but I still think he wants to be here. But I think what like everyone would probably be happy with 5 or 6, right? So
I'm
that's
sure
probably
Buffalo
where it
would give him
ends
like
up.
$9 million. They
Yeah,
just paid nine. They're paying Josh Norris $9.5 million, and he doesn't even play.
I guess. Do you really think that he would do it for that amount of money? It's not like we're talking about an 8-year contract here. We're talking about like a 2 or 3-year deal. So
Just saying.
yeah.
Just saying. I don't think the Leafs are going to get him that cheap. But I got a tweet here from Luke Fox. The core four did show up tonight through 2 periods in Colorado. Austin Matthews 3 assists. Mitch Marner 2 goals. John Tavares 2 goals. William Nylander 2 assists. So after this trade deadline and we get the pieces to fit in the right spot, so that way our whole team is going to click, it's a night where the big boys show up and score. And the bottom 6, like I said, doesn't really look together. It doesn't look threatening like it was before. Now, we did have Nick Robertson get bumped off the 4th line for a bit and put up in the top 6. What did you think of Nick Robertson's game before and after the promotion? Because it didn't even last.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he didn't fit in on the 4th line. His game style just doesn't click with
No.
Camp and Lorentz, and then I didn't notice him once he got pushed up. So I thought like I think that he's going to benefit if they decide to go with a 3rd line scoring line, because I think he should be on it. But I don't know. He feels like the guy that's going to get scratched. I thought he was going to be scratched. It was kind of surprising to me that they scratched Yarncroke instead of him. So I wouldn't be shocked if he is scratched next game. It's kind of sucks, but he's been playing his best hockey that he has as a Leaf. But like if you're not going to fit in on a line, then we can't just keep pushing him in the lineup. So
And it
kind
kind
of
of
tough.
sucks because you can't just you try and bump him up to the 3rd line there with Lawton, and you're not scratching McMahon, and
No.
even anybody who could make a case for scratching Domi Can't make that case well placing Nick Robertson on the line with Scott Lawton and Bobby McMahon. It just doesn't work having those two guys with not Max Domi. We've seen why it could work. Max Domi passes enough for two players, so he can facilitate both guys, but I just don't think those guys click together on a third line. So it's going to be interesting to see where Nick Robertson goes throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs if he makes the playoff lineup. It's going to be interesting to see how the team looks because I think we're going to get a completely different look of this bottom six than what we've had. And I'm not sure that I'm thrilled about that right this second because I feel like that means you're going to take away from the scoring, but I may be wrong. Maybe it'll
Yeah,
all come back together. I do think Yarncroke would be a better fit on the fourth line there, but I just don't see the fit with that third line tonight. Again, they haven't even had a practice yet. Like it all went
yeah.
down yesterday, like at 3 p.m. So it's kind of hard to make any judgments today. But at the same time, with the player that we know Lawton to be, I don't know how he fits with Max Domi and Bobby McMahon right this second.
Yeah, like unfortunately, like I'm also just not feeling totally high on Lawton, like where it's gonna fit. Like honestly, his best fit might be on the second line as a left winger, which is just like it'd be awful if we added a guy to fix our third line and we'd have to go back to just what we
I
were
feel like
doing
we've seen that
before.
before.
Yeah, and so I don't know, like he just feels way too much like just Kerfoot that plays a little bit snottier, and it's just I don't know. I hope he
Yeah,
proves me
he's
wrong,
definitely not
but
afraid of a scrum. I will say that.
oh no, yeah, him and Domi, they're gonna take some penalties if they're playing together. Like I can see them, like Lawton might be a little bit more controlled in his approach, but he might start something and then Domi goes in there and does a little bit too much because he's supposed to be that guy. So not excited for that. But what I am excited for Carlo, though. I think him as an addition was a really good fit, especially with a guy that comes with term, shoots right, and he's like a huge dude. So I still feel like even though he had not the greatest game, he settled down a little bit throughout the game. But I think he's also like not sure like how this team's supposed to play. Like you said, I haven't had a practice. So, as far as responsibility and where to be, like the system of creating like 2-on-1s is like the defensive system for the Leafs, and it's not what everybody does. So it comes with a little bit of time, but I do think I'm gonna like that addition a little bit more.
Well, he's 6'5", 220 as soon as he steps on the ice. So
I like that every day. Yeah.
yeah, you can't hate that.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got on this game here, CP? Before we wrap this one up, we had some more Avs stuff. Do you want to go on about the Avs?
Sure. You keep firing. I don't really have much for tonight.
So the Avs added 3 centers down the middle. We got Nelson, they got Coyle, and they got Drury. And I saw Drury a lot tonight. Now he seems to be involved, but I'm not sure how impactful. He's young on a
Did you see
fourth
him
line
throw
player.
the hit and miss?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Totally just I mean, it was almost scary. He almost took the ledger off his face. I think he hit his shoulder, but yeah, just that's not a great look for that kid.
And then Charlie Coyle on the third line. I saw him a few times tonight. I really didn't notice him to be super threatening. But I would just like to state that I think that the best top 6 in the NHL now is probably the Colorado Avalanche with the addition of Brock Nelson and the way that Val Nichushkin is back and playing. Holy shit, is there some firepower on those top 2 lines.
Yeah, I've always been a guy that thinks that you shouldn't do too much at deadline, but they just seem to have filled the hole so perfectly. It like if you're adding depth center, you're adding defensemen, and they already added goaltending. Like those are the 3 things that are the most important. And so like I don't, it is you would like them to have more time together to before the playoffs. If like I'm talking as Ted, I guess. Like if I'm a Ted and I'm an Avs fan, like that would be ideal, so they can solidify the chemistry. But even just tonight, it seemed like Nelson and Nichushkin just instant chemistry. I was noticing Coyle more in the third period, so I think not everyone's going to click immediately, but he I think is a perfect third line centerman. So yeah, I think they did it. They added 2 guys as centermen that I wish that the Leafs did. And so
Yeah.
it is kind of tough to see for sure. But yeah, they look
Yeah, and
good.
the other one that I wanted the least to get went to the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, Dylan Cousins.
Dylan Cousins. Yeah.
Yes, and he's got
Um.
an assist on his first game with like 8 hits he threw. I mean,
Yeah. Just went beast mode, Super Mario. Do do do
I
do do
know.
do do do. But then the Avs also added Ryan Lindgren in the back. He seems to be a solid third line pairing for them. Like nothing too flashy, but adds enough. Like he's just a bit better than the guys they had there, and the guys they had there were serviceable. So it adds like that nice step of depth. Just pushes everybody down one more slot, and it makes you that much more comfortable. Like I don't know like how Ryan Lindgren was playing with Adam Fox. I don't know how that worked, but I think he's in a good spot where he is in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah, I think he's kind of standard defenseman guy. Like, there's nothing really crazy special about him anywhere, but I think he's someone that you can kind of rely on, just as average, decent play. He's a good guy, a good player. He could be in a playoff lineup, no question. So, yeah, I did like what they added for sure.
If I have any concerns, if I'm a Colorado Avalanche fan or watcher, um, it's the goaltending. Now, Mackenzie Blackwood let in 4 goals on 12 shots tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to do much after that. So,
Didn't have to do much after that, but still, that's not something you can trust. You can go for in the playoffs and trust your goaltender to back you up when he's putting up numbers like that. If there's any one worry that team still has going into the playoffs, it's their goaltending. But you know what? They might have just loaded up because they're like, we don't have a good enough goalie. There isn't a better goalie available that we can go and get right now. So why don't we just outscore our problems? We've got a
yeah,
Nathan McKinnon and a Cale Makar. We can probably outscore our issues.
I mean, and Blackwood has been pretty good since he's been there. So he does have the 1 or 2 off nights, but for the most part, he's been pretty dynamite. I have him in all 3 of my fantasy teams, so I've been very happy with his play. But
Watching
yeah,
him closely, eh?
yeah, but yeah, there's a stinker in there every once in a while. But then he like did back to back shutouts after his last stinker. So yeah, I think you are right. They do have the ability to outscore their problems, but I think they're just going to be a problem unless they like run into, like you said, Dallas, who just comes and overwhelms them with, you know, Mikko Rantanen just goes on a heater. Actually, in Dallas in general, they've had a funny season because they were playing so poorly at the beginning of the year, but just barely holding it together. And now all of their stars are all clicking at the exact same time. Like Dallas might be an issue too. They're like all of their stars consistently getting 2 to 3 points a night. It's crazy. So, yeah, I think whoever wins out of that series, they're going to be a problem for the rest of that conference for the rest of the way.
Hopefully they just kill each other in the first
Yeah,
round.
yeah. At least
And
by
it
the time
comes
they get
out.
to the finals.
Yeah, but I mean, like you still have there's so many other good teams over in the West right now. Definitely an issue. I'm glad we're not in the West this year. I'm actually like feeling better about the East, even with the Florida and the Tampa ad. Did you
Jeez.
see Boston beat the shit out of Tampa today? Boston, who sold everything,
No,
beat
I
Tampa
didn't.
4-0.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. No, I didn't see that. That's great. I mean,
Yeah, that
that's
was
kind of how
before the
things
Leafs game.
goes, eh? Like, I mean, all of those players in Boston probably have a chip on their shoulder now, so not surprised. But I mean, Florida is just going to be. It depends if Matthew Chuck comes back healthy or not. I think they're going to be a tough out regardless, but even without him. But if he comes back, like, my God, that's going to be painful if we ever
Oh,
have
he's
to
coming
play
back.
them.
He's coming
Yeah,
back round 1, game 1, like with a
exactly.
vengeance. Like he's going to be healthier than he's ever been.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure about that one.
Oh,
But
you just wait. It's my
I
luck.
mean, if he comes back, like that's, I guess, like people have been mentioning, like it's now really important to win the division, and I agree. Like you want Tampa and Florida, you want one of them to knock themselves out, and then like I'm assuming you have to play Florida at that point, and that's going to be brutal. But just at least if you don't have to do it in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely got to wonder how Tampa would feel playing Florida in the first round, getting bounced in like 4 or 5 games after all they paid for all those ads.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams are always going to feel that way. Like, especially looking at what happened this offseason, like there's 3 or 4 teams that really loaded up. Like, only one of them's going to feel happy about it. So, yeah, it
It's
is
very
tough.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so looking forward, the Leafs play again on Monday, but it's a 10 p.m. game. So unfortunately, we have to work for a living and do this podcast too. So we will not be here after that game at 12:30 in the morning. We will not be here for the Thursday game because I am currently in school, and we'll be back for the Saturday game. And then we got Monday the next week, and Wednesday the next week, and Thursday the next week. We got a big week coming up after this one. So hang on to your hats, folks. Enjoy your week. We will talk to you all next time. That's a wrap for now. Thanks for joining us for Split the Defense Leafs post game presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors, serving the Kingston and surrounding areas since 2004. Give us a like if you haven't already. Give us a comment on your way out the door. Subscribe to our YouTube. Follow our page if you're listening and haven't done that already. We need you as a follower. And until next time, peace.
Follow the boys on Twitter at STDPWebby, at Craig D. Pearce, and at Ted_is_shook.